Marvel Studios is actually going to recast T'Challa. This is according to an incredibly reliable insider. And it's also something that fans have been wanting for some time. So in this video, I want to go over this report, and I want to give you some context because frankly, I think I know how this is actually going to happen in the Marvel Cinematic movie. There's a ton of clues from comic books, some stuff that's said in the report, and a lot of context from other leaks and rumors that we've been hearing about. So allow me to use the powers of being a gigantic nerd. And let's talk about how T'Challa, one of the most important characters in the history of comic books, will be returning to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Oh, and I should also mention there are technically conflicting reports on this whole thing. Jeff Snyder is reporting that Marvel Studios is recasting the role of T'Challa, the role that Chadwick Boseman played. And yet My Time to Shine Hello is saying that it's not going to be that. It's actually going to be an aged up version of the young Prince T'Challa. And so in this video, I'll explain all of that, and I'll explain how either one of those things could actually happen within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Okay, so let's start with Jeff Snyder's report. Now, you can go read this on Jeff's newsletter. It is technically behind a paywall. And so because of that, I don't want to go into like all of the details that are in the newsletter. If you want the full context of what Jeff actually reported, you got to just read it from the newsletter. But I will touch on the key points that Jeff reported because it's important to try to give context to what we think is going to happen. Jeff literally said that 5 years after the passing of Chadwick Boseman, Marvel Studios is now opening the door up to recasting the role of T'Challa. He says this will happen via the magic of the multiverse, and he said that the return of Robert Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom has opened the door for this possibility. And in fact, Marvel Studios made an offer to an A-list black celebrity in fall of 2024, a couple of months after RDJ was announced to return as Doctor Doom. According to Jeff, this actor turned the role down because they didn't want to put their rising career in jeopardy, stepping technically into the shoes of Chadwick Boseman. Jeff says that he thinks it's unlikely that this character will show up in the next two Avengers movies, but he believes and has heard from a source that this will be the star of Black Panther 3, this new T'Challa. So there's a lot of stuff going on in that report. There's a lot of emotion tied to this whole thing because some people believe that Marvel Studios did the right thing by making the death of Chadwick Boseman's Black Panther technically canon to the Marvel Cinematic Universe story, and therefore keeping the legacy of Chad completely tied to the Black Panther character. That's the strategy, right? That's why Kevin Feige and Ryan Coogler did what they did. But I think there's just been a lot of people speaking up about how we need T'Challa back. There's a whole recast T'Challa movement. Shout out to E-Man. And so it seems like what Jeff is reporting is that Marvel Studios has received that message. They are now going to use the power of the multiverse to bring a new T'Challa into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So now let's talk about how that could happen, right? Well, Jeff says in his article that it would be via the power of the multiverse. And he makes a connection to what is going on with Robert Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom. Because we are in this multiversal saga and we are essentially going to see the multiverse end and a bunch of characters from these different universes all show up together, that is essentially the most obvious way to bring this in. Now, to take it a step further, there are movies coming out like the new Fantastic Four film and like The Marvels, which came out last year. Those films and Multiverse of Madness have set up the ideas of other important universes, right? So we've got the 838 universe, which is shown in Multiverse of Madness. You've got Earth 10005, which is apparently the Earth with the X-Men at the end of the Marvels movie. And by the way, Alex Perez recently said that that Beast character will be showing up in the Avengers films. It's also rumored that the Earth that Deadpool and Wolverine end up on after the events of Deadpool and Wolverine is that same Earth, that 10005, which has a bunch of X-Men on it. And it's rumored that this Fantastic Four film is going to take place in a completely unique universe, one that we have not visited before, but it does appear that the characters from that universe are going to be very important to the next couple Avengers movies. So what I'm saying is there's an option for Marvel Studios to make this new version of T'Challa just a Black Panther from one of those specific universes. And then when you bring them into the Avengers films, you can then have that new T'Challa play a role in the story, considering that these other universes do feel like they're going to be important, at least in some regard. A lot of people in our community think the Fantastic Four movie is the best place to put this character, and I agree. I mean, T'Challa and the Fantastic Four have a massive history together because Black Panther was introduced in a Fantastic Four comic book. And Stan Lee purposely wanted to build up the character of T'Challa as being this African king that could come in and literally beat the entire Fantastic Four. That's kind of part of the prowess that Stan Lee wanted to establish for T'Challa. So there's comic book precedence there. I think it would be a great opportunity to do that. And also, if they put an offer out to an A-list actor late last year, that means they want the ball rolling very quickly. Now, Jeff has reported that this is just for Black Panther 3. He doubts that they would be ready for the Avengers films, but the Avengers films are doing a lot of stuff. I think that there would be room for a character like T'Challa, this new variant of T'Challa, to pop up in those movies. Partially because I just don't see how you do Secret Wars without a male Black Panther. Like, that's just huge for Marvel Comics. T'Challa as the Black Panther is massive, and so I totally understand wanting to do new things, branch out, get creative with your characters, try different mixes and matches, etc., etc. But at the end of the day, if you're celebrating Marvel, you got to celebrate the stuff that has worked and resonated with the most amount of fans. So the first way that this could happen, and I think a likely way that it could happen, would just be to have this variant of T'Challa be in one of these other universes, whether it be the 838 universe, the 10005 universe with the X-Men, or this newly introduced Fantastic Four universe. However, there are other variants that are seemingly going to play a very important role in Avengers Doomsday and in Avengers Secret Wars, and I'm talking about the rumors of the Dark Avengers. Evil variants of the OG 6 Avengers are heavily rumored to be involved in Doomsday and in Secret Wars as kind of like the lieutenants of RDJ's Doctor Doom. And we're speculating about where these characters will come from, but wouldn't it be interesting if a new, older, more grizzled version of T'Challa happened to be on one of these other Earths? Maybe even had a massive rivalry with one of these villainous variants of the OG Avengers, and then that character somehow also ends up on 616 or on Battle World to fight in the Secret War. And I think the reason I like that is because this would be sort of a darker version of T'Challa that would not just trust these Avengers as the heroic versions of the Avengers got together and planned to fight against Doctor Doom. That would be kind of interesting, like seeing a T'Challa variant that was from a universe where Captain America went dark and went Hydra, and then he doesn't trust Steve Rogers as Nomad when he returns. I mean, that's cool. That would work for me. That'd be kind of fun. I mean, it's even possible that Doctor Doom and this variant of T'Challa come from the same universe. Those two characters have a deep history in comics as well, and Vibranium and Wakanda always stands against Latveria and Doctor Doom's technology as sort of a check and a balance to what Victor would be able to do. That's why the Doom War storyline was so freaking crazy in comics, because Victor comes to Wakanda, stands in front of Bass, receives all the power of Vibranium, and then they make all the Vibranium inert. It was like really crazy, and you could see that Doom wanted to do this because he understood the power of Wakanda. And if he wanted to take over the world, he had to first make sure that Wakanda couldn't stand against it. And in fact, there were a lot of interesting rumors that Marvel Studios was going to adapt this storyline. Like, if you go back, there were a lot of rumors that Doctor Doom was going to show up in Wakanda Forever, and Victor was going to be this person behind the scenes pulling the strings, setting up all of the conflict between Atlantis or Tenochtitlan and the friggin' Wakandans. There's even concept art that was released around the time of Wakanda Forever, and people had talked about how Victor was going to be seen for the very first time in that movie. And we later found out that those were all plans for the original version of Wakanda Forever from before Chadwick Boseman passed. And so maybe Marvel Studios still wants to do that story, but now they're going to do that story, attach it to this RDJ Doctor Doom variant, which is potentially also why they are casting this new Black Panther around the casting of Robert Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom. And another crazy thing that could be happening is this could actually be Denzel Washington. And I know right now it doesn't seem like Denzel would be willing to just jump in and be Black Panther for the Avengers films, and maybe this is me just reaching and going crazy here. But Denzel Washington did reveal that Ryan Coogler is writing a role for him, for Denzel, for Black Panther 3. And there are a lot of other rumors that suggest that a new T'Challa could be Denzel's son. So it could be John David Washington that would play the new T'Challa, and maybe Denzel Washington is either T'Chaka or the actual T'Challa, and John David Washington is playing a version of Prince T'Challa. And that kind of takes us into this thing with My Time to Shine Hello, because another big question is this new T'Challa technically T'Challa's son of T'Chaka, which is kind of like what Jeff Snyder's implying by saying that this is going to be stepping into the shoes of Chadwick Boseman? Or is it going to be T'Challa the second, the son of King T'Challa, the sort of young kid that we see established at the end of Wakanda Forever? My Time to Shine is saying that this will be an aged up variant of the young Prince T'Challa. And so technically everything we just talked about in this video still applies, except for the fact that in this other alternate universe, whether it be the X-Men universe from Deadpool, Wolverine, and the end of the Marvels, whether it be the 838 universe, or whether it be the Fantastic Four universe, one of the variant universes of the evil Avengers, or RDJ Doctor Doom's universe. Either way, if My Time to Shine Hello is correct, the actual T'Challa dies just like he did in our universe, and then his son, Prince T'Challa, becomes T'Challa. So in other universes, perhaps the timeline is just way further along, and so we get technically an adult male T'Challa that is the Black Panther, but he's also technically Prince T'Challa, T'Challa the second, which I guess would match up better to the end of Wakanda Forever. But when it comes to Prince T'Challa, there's another option here, and it would have to do with going out into the multiverse and returning back to the sacred timeline after some weird time dilation, time skipping thing. And the only reason I bring this up is because the character of Franklin Richards is rumored to play a big role in the Fantastic Four movie and also in Avengers Doomsday. And there are a lot of rumors that this character will be aged up, that he will be around 4 years old in the Fantastic Four movie, but when we then see the character in Avengers Doomsday, he will be between 10 to 13 years old. And to me, that connects to another rumor that suggests that the universe the Fantastic Four movie takes place in will be destroyed, or the main Fantastic Four cast will have to leave. And so that cast of characters will leave that universe, come into the 616, and then will then be a time jump. So I'm almost thinking that the universal travel, or the black hole multiversal travel, will be the thing that actually ages up Franklin Richards. And maybe it's possible that Shuri and Prince T'Challa go out into the multiverse sometime before Doomsday and then return having both aged up quite a bit, therefore making the young Prince T'Challa into an adult. I know a lot of this sounds crazy, but technically there's comic book precedents for all of this stuff happening, and there are many different things that have been set up within the Marvel Cinematic Universe that could explain getting a new T'Challa, getting a new and aged up Prince T'Challa, and that character then taking over the role of Black Panther. Dang, we got really sweaty on this one. Let me know if it all made sense, okay? I'd love to know your thoughts about this in the comment section below. And as I always say, I hope you are having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.